What is up, YouTube? So today I wanted to talk about something that's incredibly interesting. We got my fitness content, we got my cooking, and today I wanted to talk about reading. Now I know that might sound boring to a lot of people, but that's the thing. That's actually what today's video is going to be about. You see, I've noticed over the past couple years and in my high school in general, reading, I mean like physical reading or audiobooks or Kindle books, has become a lot less normal and a lot less fun to a lot of people. And today I kind of wanted to talk about why that is, because I actually find that incredibly saddening, because reading, in my opinion, and writing in general after reading is the best way pretty much to learn and grow yourself as a person. And I wanted to talk about the reasons as well as why reading is so important. So I actually wrote my Harvard supplemental essay on this, and I find it an incredibly interesting and important topic to talk about. So I think the first main reason that reading is really not seen as fun anymore is because, in our middle school and elementary days, I feel like reading by teachers was a lot more, you could choose what you wanted to read. You could read fantasy, you could read some nonfiction, you could read sci-fi. You pretty much could more choose what you actually wanted to read, and then you talk about it in class. Though you weren't forced to read books. I mean, you obviously still had to read books for class, but I feel like there was a lot more of an atmosphere of read what you want. And stepping into high school, I feel like that kind of just got thrown out the window, starting to take classes like AP Literature and Biology. You'd be forced to read these textbooks and chapter readings, and as soon as you don't think that you're in control of what you're reading and you're being forced to read it for homework instead of for fun, even if it is actually genuinely interesting and a nice topic to learn about, it just automatically is a lot less fun to do when you're being forced to read it, or you're acting as if you have to read it instead of want to. Now, the other massive reason that I believe reading is definitely not as important in society anymore is because social media and all these things like YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, they just all perform much more like instant gratification, and they're a lot more flashy than reading black text on a white page. So all these people, all the millennials, Gen Z, they're growing up with these cell phones and seeing pictures of Instagram models and people with their perfect lives. And reading just seems like a mundane and boring task in comparison. Now, those are the two main reasons. There's obviously a lot more small ones, but I think those are the biggest reasons for why reading isn't seen as important today. So now we're gonna get into why I think it's so important for you to read. As you know, my other videos are much more on the physical fitness aspect of your things, talking about how you can make your body more healthy, how you can eat healthier. But the fact is that half of your happiness is derived from your mental and spiritual health. And one of the most important factors is your brain. Obviously, just like when you train your muscles in the gym, you need to train your brain by reading or doing other things that require some form of mental exertion. And I feel like a lot of people think that school is enough, and when they finish school, they'll go home and they'll just play video games, or they'll relax, take a nap, watch television, instead of reading a book or listening to an audiobook for fun and actually learning more material outside of school. You say they treat school as if it's the only place where you actually have to learn anything, and that's great, but the fact is, you should be wanting to learn anytime, even outside of school. Big benefit of reading is that it trains your brain to be active even outside of school. So once you start reading and seeing it as a genuinely fun task instead of a thing that is being forced upon you like in all the high school classes, you can start to learn things that you never would have if you hadn't started reading again. And I myself got caught in this trap just probably like a year ago at the beginning of the pandemic, I didn't read really at all, but I used to read all the time in my middle school days. And as soon as I started reading more and more and listening to audiobooks, reading Kindle and stuff like that, and then taking notes on what I actually read from what I found important on it, oh my God, my life has changed so much. You know, the funny thing is, if you actually think about it, what reading is you're essentially taking the knowledge, or, you know, if you're reading fantasy just for fun, that's great as well because it's still practicing your mind. You're essentially taking the knowledge of these other people that have gone through life, and they're telling you what they have learned, like the biggest pieces of advice they can give you, and they're putting it out on the page for you to read right there, so you can learn it in literally like an hour. And it's actually incredibly powerful to just sit down and be able to read books from all different types of genres and learn what these people took years to learn, their entire lives to learn, and we can learn it just like that. I mean, not that fast, but you know what I mean. So now let's get into how I think you should begin to start reading more and how you can actually start to like reading, because it is so important, guys. It's honestly changing my life so much. You know, I advocate so much for fitness and nutrition, but the fact is that reading and writing is just as important. I think one of the greatest ways to start actually liking to read again is realizing that you don't have to be forced to read. You know, just like in what I was saying with school, we get all these books being forced to be read on us, and I think that the greatest way to get back into it is just to go to a bookstore, go to Amazon Kindle, go on your audiobook, Audible subscription, and just look at what you want to read. I mean, anything that catches your eye. And it's important to realize that if you don't like it, you don't have to read it. You should never feel like you have to finish a book. You can set it down, maybe pick it up another time, or just go on to a different book. You should never feel like you have to be forced to read, because that's just gonna make you wanna read even less. It's just like how when we're forced to read in school and we read past the point where we wanna stop, it makes us feel as if we don't like reading. So I think the greatest way is just pick up a book that you wanna read and just read it. You know, figure out what genre you like. Figure out if you like fantasy, figure out if you like sci-fi, figure out if you like nonfiction. I personally like a blend of all of them. I like reading anything, honestly. And I think another fantastic way to start to like reading is realizing that reading doesn't have to be just physical books or Kindles. You can also do audible books, like audio. It's not cheating at all to listen to an audiobook. I've actually got a couple friends on Audible, and I have a family subscription with my family. And whenever we buy a book, we can all read it instead of being on individual accounts. It is just so convenient to have Audible instead of just physical reading, because I find that you can listen to audiobooks when you're doing tasks where you don't really have that much mental exertion going on, like cleaning the kitchen, or if you're driving to work and all you're doing is sitting there in silence. You could be listening to an audiobook. And you know, I totally understand listening to music in the car might be your thing, but I think maybe try it out. Try out an audiobook instead of music for once and see if you like it. It's totally fine if you don't. You know, everyone has their different tastes, but if you actually do a mix of Audible books and normal books, I find that it feels like a different experience. It just lets you read that much more. So that's pretty much the video, guys. I mean, I really want to advocate just how important reading is. It's completely changing my life. I'm learning so much that I wouldn't have been able to if I hadn't actually gotten back into reading again. And the fact is that learning is a lifelong experience, and you shouldn't just act as if it's only school that you have to do it in, because yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll definitely get a more fun-centered or, you know, fitness type of new video or cooking video out next time. But I really wanted to have an actual deep conversation again and talk about how reading is so important. So I hope you guys liked the video. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Bye-bye.